Hey, what's up everybody? Welcome back to another reaction. Today we have a special one, a brand new composer tier patron. Ultimate Blade 125 decided to throw in the theme of Kage and RASETSU from Hunter x Hunter, which I have seen both versions of Hunter x Hunter at this point, but I was never really paying that close of attention to the music in it. I was more paying attention to the story and where things were going. So while I do recognize what scene the screenshot is from, I really don't remember how much of an impact it had on that scene. I'm sure it was very impactful, but I just wasn't thinking about it consciously. So this will be an entirely new experience, being able to hear it on its own and really break down what made this song hit so different at that point in the story. So if you don't have any context for this, that's fine. I'm sure this song is going to do well enough to give you the context as well as me breaking it down after the fact. But if you haven't seen Hunter x Hunter, what are you doing with your life, man? Go watch it and then come back here. I don't watch the whole series. That's deep in. That's like 120 or maybe 130 episodes in. That's deep. You don't have to watch all of it, but I digress. Let's see how this song affected this scene and really listen to it and dissect it, shall we? Let's go. Ooh. Ooh. I'm gonna turn that up a little bit. Oh. I definitely did not process the sheer dissonance this entire first part is. Ooh. First proper melody we've had. Ooh. Still crunchy. If you couldn't tell by the screenshot, shit would be going down, to put it in kind terms. So this tracks a lot. Oh man, I really didn't pay attention to this the first time. Oh my god, it's disgusting. I love it. Ooh. Ooh. Sorry, I just got the thought that he like almost tripped over a stair. Oh. This is a serious song, I'm sorry. Ooh. Ooh. Brother, ooh. Okay, so it came out of it. Oh, that's neat. That's really interesting. I'm sorry, I'm listening to all this, like, evolution on this really closely. Like, it had some dissonance in that part, but it was definitely much more melodically sound. And the Y is kind of cool. Ooh. Had to throw that screenshot in, huh? I respect it. Oh, this is so awesome. The layering has shifted a little bit. The focus of the dissonance isn't in the melody anymore. That's so cool. Oh boy. I'm gonna see how much of that I can't break down, like, further, so it can be a little bit more clear for everyone. As I said during the reaction, this song happens during a very negatively pivotal moment for one of the characters, and you have to personify that somehow in the music supporting it, because music is to support the narrative in a lot of shows. This is no different, and what happens here is a lot of nothing good, but that's exactly what you want when you want a character who has these giant waves of just negative feeling happening all at once. You want things that do not work together. You want crunch, you want dissonance, you want minor clash all over the place. You do not want it to be a whole beautiful chord. You don't want it to be a beautiful uplifting chord like, you know, like, you don't want that beauty around it, because that would not signify the right mood to the scene at all. Instead, what's done a lot here is just utilizing the half steps next to each other. So like, if you're hitting a white key, then go immediately to the black key adjacent from it. So you get these really just, these ones are a lot of what happens during this song. It's just this combo. It just crunch it all together. There's some in here that are like you just get a little, it doesn't work. Like, there's a bunch of nonsense happening melodically, and that's entirely on purpose. It's by design to not have things working together here. And that feels like it would be pretty obvious. But what I love about this one is that it doesn't stay doing that. As the character is initially going through this turmoil in their head, and as they're starting to kind of lose it, you get another layer on top of this where that melody comes in a little bit from that male vocalist. And what's interesting about that is he's not even singing it entirely on pitch either. He's letting himself not sing it properly. They probably wanted that in there too. Just like, you don't want it to be beautified. You don't want it to hit the perfect match. You want it to be a little bit more organic and a little less perfect, because that's kind of what's going on in the mind of this character right now. So what's happening here is he's going from a G to an E flat and then immediately down to the F below it. So those two, and he kind of like wavers on that. So you get this, and then it goes up to a G, and then just kind of straight down every single note chromatically to the lower note there, which I believe would stop on a D or maybe a D sharp. Going down chromatically really doesn't sound good ever, unless it's like somebody who's doing a jazz thing. You get some fills that are okay, but largely if you go down, you just don't really feel like you're ever going to resolve anywhere, especially if you end on a sharp or a flat. So it really takes away anything in the mind that's like, oh, we're done now. It leaves it hanging just a little bit, which again, reflecting on the character's mental state, makes sense. They're not resolving anything. They're just hanging on this mental state, and you're not sure where it's going to go next. It's an in-between note, and there's no key to shift to, because we haven't really heard one yet. All of these crunches that I was talking about that were in here, that were just like disgusting and just didn't make sense, like, none of those work. So you can't really tell where you are in this song until a little bit later, but we'll get to that. Through a lot of that middle section, you start hearing actual chords and progressions. The vocals are kind of lining up a little bit, but there's still some background crunch and occasionally some melodic crunch in the front. So it's just still not perfect, but there's definitely an evolution from the start, which was pure chaos, to this, which feels like somebody started understanding understanding what's happening, or something started to take shape, which again tracks with the moment in this scene. It feels like a middle school choir where like some people know what they're doing and others don't. Like some have a really good idea, but some are completely lost and just there because they don't want to be in homeroom. Like it's that level of like confusion. There is just enough solid understanding that it's helping you kind of figure your way through this song. But at the same time, there's enough dissonance in the background, especially, that's making you second guess where we are musically. And therefore, still, you don't feel like you've resolved, you don't feel like you've landed on anything. This does get a little bit more prideful, especially in tone. There starts to be a little bit more of a cockiness to it. Like there's a boisterous feeling that kind of comes with all of these horns that build in. You're like, oh, here's the power. Like at first it felt like somebody who didn't know what they were doing, and then it felt like somebody who didn't care what they were doing as long as their goal was met. Again, perfect reflection of the scene happening here. And then we move into the final part, which I think is one of the coolest bits. So of course, in the last bit, following the trend that this entire passage has done so far, everything starts to make full sense. There's a full realization here of where we are musically. Everyone clicks into the key that they're supposed to be singing or playing in, and it just starts to sound like a song after all this time. Everything is kind of figuring itself out. And the core of this melodic line is really cool too, because it's E, G flat, G, and then E flat. So we literally have two, if you were to use the black keys and then the white keys in that, those are both minor thirds. And like they might sound good when they're together, but then you start adding crunch if you alternate your fingers, one on black, one on white. And I thought that this was kind of funny. This is definitely not the right key, mind you, but some of you might know The Nightmare Before Christmas, and you might recognize three of those notes from something that's just leaving out the D sharp there, or the E flat, depending on which one you want to call it. The original is actually a D and D flat going to a B, but you see the point there. The relationship is the same, and those notes are also used in the full piano version of Making Christmas. So you get that crunch in there. You heard it in that, and that might be something that you can connect this song to a little bit. It has a very similar build there. Of course, there are other things that happen in there. I'm pretty sure it goes up to the B and C at one point, and obviously those don't work well together. But you get this whole rigmarole of what's going on here. There's a shift in key during that portion too, just to show the expansion of power that's happening here. Just absolutely shedding. But it's really neat looking back on songs like this that I really didn't pay attention to during, but I felt the intent while watching. This was probably shoved really deep in there because what's happening on screen visually is so interesting that you don't want to look away mentally, you know, like you're not going to be starting to dissect every single little bit of the scene here. You're just watching and then you're figuring out what's going to happen next, and you're just in this oh shit mindset. And having songs like this where they're kind of undersung because their job is being done very well, you don't notice them because it feels so natural in the scene, and that is just brilliant. I love how well this parallels to the actual visuals on screen. Obviously, that is kind of the goal in a lot of narrative-driven series. On top of the other great shonens of our time out there, really try to lock in that musical background just so you can have that extra backbone in the back of your mind while watching what's happening on screen. It's so neat to see this and be able to hear it and like really hear what they're doing at every single like emotional turning point. That's so cool. But I guess that's about all I have to say, really. I was just nerding out about how this song progressed naturally and how it kind of came into its own at the end, right at the time it should have, when the character was finally understanding what they're doing, and you just get this whole oh shit feeling, and it's just so good. I never thought I'd be able to listen to an anime theme again like this in the background and actually have the proper context to it. But I digress. Thank you all so very much for watching. Thank you, of course, Ultimate Blade, for throwing this at me in the composer queue. And obviously, if anyone else has any other songs they want me to get to, leave them down in the comments below and I will do my best. And otherwise, if you just like this video and you want to follow me and support me to see more in the future, you know how to do all that. And I will see you in the next video. Goodbye!